Hello and peace be upon you. Welcome to this first episode of a series of classes that will hopefully change your life about happiness. And I want to go in 33 episodes. I want to cover all the key elements of what should make you a happy person, from personal issues to understanding our position in the world and global issues and the meaning of life and all these key elements that are necessary for us to be happy. Please join in, uh, you know, make comments, agree, disagree. I don't mind people disagreeing. In fact, I welcome it because it helps me explain things that I haven't explained. So I'm going to read a basic text that I've produced for this particular lesson, and it's available. Um, by the way, I'm in the garden. I should have said I'm in Jordan. Very excited about being here. I used to live here. I'm in the garden. It's 9 o'clock at night. All sorts of things might happen. Cat might come along. Baby started crying over there. I love the weather, by the way. You probably can't appreciate how much I love this place because I helped grow a lot of these plants. So this is kind of like an outdoor sitting room. A very traditional roof covered with grapevines to get some shade. And there's kind of, I don't know if you can see, there's kind of these solid or concrete seats for, chilling out, having tea usually. Yeah, so anyway, please comment. I'm going to read some stuff. That stuff is available on the website bigquestionsanswer.com in the text summary for episode 1. Hopefully I'll do that for every single episode. It's something I've written fairly quickly, so there's always room for improvement, and I look forward to your feedback and things like that. So let's just get on with it. Anytime you disagree or whatever, or any time you feel like, making a comment, go for it. So this particular episode is about finding your direction. So the title is Direction, Key Parts of the Path of Happiness. I think on the title, the original YouTube title at least, or the live stream title, I said to happiness, paths to happiness, but it's actually the paths of happiness, because you can very quickly jump onto the path of happiness. So you can be happy very quickly, all you have to do is stay on that path. So it's not really a path to happiness or a long journey to get there. Obviously, it's different degrees of happiness, but yes, we'll talk about that as we go along in this course. So number 1, path. Going for one word titles here. The happiness path chosen for this course is based on Islam, as Islam has many unique features that make it ideal for such a course. These unique features are outlined below. So when I say below, probably in a few minutes I'll read it. Anyway, I'll quote from the Holy Quran, which is expressed in first person from God. This day have I completed my favor upon you and made Islam, which means, it's an Arabic word, which means inner and outer peace through the submission of your ego. Packed a lot of meaning in that one word, eh? So this day have I completed my favor upon you and made Islam your religion. And religion just means, in this case, or in Islam, it means a guide for life, a guide for life that you can choose to take on or not. The above verse, the verse I just quoted, of the Holy Quran says that although in the past God had always guided us, we have now evolved enough to follow the ultimate guidance in the form of, what have I got? In the form of the teachings of Islam. From this, we can see the teachings of Islam are unique in a couple of ways. One is that it is the most advanced and complete guide for life. Another is that it recognizes the truths of other faiths. it is only reasonable that God has always guided all his teachings. Oh, what's that? Grapes dropping on me or something? Some sort of liquid? Anyway, definitely an orange red mark. Never had that. That's interesting. Okay, anyway. So, as I was saying, it is only reasonable that God has always guided all his creation. So it makes sense that, Islam is just part of a long series of religions taught throughout the world. That's something that is found in the Holy Quran, a claim found in the Holy Quran that for all people, for all times, God has guided us. Yeah. So anyway, another unique feature is that Islam is not a tribal religion named after its founder, like most religions are, but it is the first international religion whose name describes our ultimate goal, to be at peace or be at one with God and God's creation, that is, the world we live in. Number 2, misconceptions. To begin with, it is important to clear some misconceptions about Islam. A short conversation that Prophet Muhammad had could be useful in this regard. Quite thirsty. Yeah, there's a lot of experimentation going on here. So by the way, hopefully the laptop battery won't die, and my funny internet thing, the way internet works over here in Jordan is really different. Uses some battery powered thing. Hopefully it won't all die, and I've got a piece of, you probably can't see, a piece of cleaning up sponge. Cool. It's cleaning up sponge on my microphone in case, because there's lots of lovely wind. I enjoy the wind, but it probably won't be very good for the sound. Anyway, let's go back to misconceptions. Misconceptions. To begin with, it is important to clear up some misconceptions about Islam. A short conversation that Prophet Muhammad had could be useful in this regard. A man asked Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, "Who should I love the most?" Prophet Muhammad said, "Your mother." "Then who should I love?" the man asked. Prophet Muhammad said, again, "Your mother." "Then who?" the man asked. Again, "Your mother," said the Prophet. "Then who?" the man asked. Again, "Your mother," said the Prophet. "Then who?" asked the man. "Your father, then your nearest relatives," said Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. People think that women are treated badly in Islam. The incident just mentioned from the life of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is just one example that shows us how important women are in Islam. In fact, by far, most converts to Islam in the West are women, because they find Islam empowering. A few other facts might clear up some other misconceptions. It was Muslims. I think it's raining or something. Is it raining? No? Then these grapes are leaking on me or something. I might move. I don't know. Anyway, don't worry, Saleh. Okay. Don't know if you can hear that. I love that, and a lot of people who have ever heard this find it just amazing. It's a call for prayer. We'll pause for a minute. So anyway, so what's happening is there are mosques all over the place, and they, on the loudspeakers, call for prayer. And this is an ancient way to call for people for prayers. And in Arabic, there's lots of meaningful words. And yes, ancient as in over 1,500 years, the same way to call Muslims to the mosque for prayers. So Islam is a very social religion, which means you should ideally go to the mosque. Well, I'm not going to the mosque is a long story, and I'll get to that at some point. Anyway, so yeah, so what I was saying was, let's get back to it. So, women treated very nicely in Islam. A few other misconceptions are that, let's clear them up. It was a few other facts that will clear up some misconceptions is it was Muslims who used to protect Jews from Christians in medieval Europe. It was Islam that brought what we know now as modern science and civilization to Europe in what was known as the Enlightenment or Renaissance. No, Enlightenment. Got the right word. Number 3, the 7 points. I'll hopefully do 7 points in each show. Number 3, proven. The happiness path explained by Islam is a tried and tested one. Prophet Muhammad said, "Make it a habit to shake hands. It will remove bad feelings between you." It has been shown by modern science the advice just mentioned by Prophet Muhammad works. I'm not sure how good that sentence was, but basically, modern science backs up this statement of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Shaking hands releases feel-good hormones in our bodies, such as oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin. If such good feelings are related to contact with a person, then our brains will link less bad things with that person, as Prophet Muhammad said it would. You will find people much happier in Muslim countries for several obvious reasons, such as an agreed emphasis on family values, respecting the elderly, and committing to taking care of children over buying unnecessary material objects. This leads to less loneliness and mental health issues, the biggest causes of death in the West. If you search YouTubers who travel to Muslim countries, they tend to report that such countries are the most hospitable in the world. Psychological studies, mostly carried out in the West, are also continue to support the teachings of Islam as an effective way to find happiness. Number 4, divine. So, by the way, anytime you feel like, make a comment or ask questions if you don't understand something. At the moment, I can't see any comments, so I hope I'm in the right section. Chat. Okay, here we go. Anyway, so yeah, divine. The teachings of Islam are made by God, our designer, something I hope you increasingly see as this course continues. As such, the teachings of Islam are made in accordance with human nature. God explains this in the Holy Quran, and follow the nature made by Allah, that is God, the nature in which He has created humankind. There's no altering the creation of Allah. That is the right religion. We are so confused in the West about what makes us happy. We choose things that have clearly been shown to make us miserable. We choose things to make us happy that make us miserable. Yeah, can work on that sentence. It is far better to listen to God. It's far better to listen to God-made ideas than the guesswork and fancy-sounding words of New Age spiritual teachers. Also, Islam is not a teaching that drops its standards to fit in with popular opinion. It is the unchanging Word of God. Number 5 out of 7, by the way. logical. It's my son trying to make friends with kittens in the garden. Anyway, and in the logical, we're on, and in the alternation of the night and day, and the provision that Allah sends down from the heavens, whereby He quickens, that means He waters the earth after its death, and in the changing of the winds are signs for people who try to understand. That's God talking in the Holy Quran. As science develops, we learn more about the importance of the phenomena mentioned in these verses of the Holy Quran. Night and day are the result of the earth spinning on its axes, which saves it from burning up on one side and freezing on the other. If that happened, we would die. The verse mentioned also talks about the water cycle, which keeps us alive. The changing winds are important for spreading heat around the world and for pollination of plants, which we depend on. These are all signs of God for those who try to understand. Islam has the rare quality of being in line with our understanding of the world through science. Islam described the expanding universe over 1,000 years before Einstein agreed with it. Christianity and Judaism, on the other hand, are based on teachings that claim the universe was made in 6 days, with the earth being created before the rest of the universe. Islam is a logical religion that does not expect you to believe things simply on faith. 17 minutes, eh? 6. We're getting to the end. Easy. Allah desires to help you develop yourself, and He desires not hardship for you. That is God talking in the Holy Quran. Islam has easy solutions to problems we in the West consider huge, such as depression, environmental issues, and wealth inequality. It solves problems by setting up simple standards of behavior, like saying peace whenever you come across someone. Simple, small teachings like that are proven to have a massively positive effect on our happiness. As we learn more about psychology, the environment, economics rather, we find out that Islam had the answers all along. Finally, number 7, complete. Need a drink. Hopefully you're not catching much wind. There isn't too much wind, actually. Catching too much wind on microphone is what I meant. Alrighty, so complete. This day have I completed my favor upon you and made Islam, inner peace and outer peace through submission of the ego, your religion, which is a guide for life. Again, from God in the Holy Quran. So I've quoted that a minute ago, you might have noticed, or a couple of minutes ago. But there are a lot of meanings in these verses and they can be used in different contexts. Anyway, here we go. Islam says this verse in the Holy Quran, is a complete guide for life. Anxiety comes from not knowing what to do in a given situation. Islam provides a simple guide that covers all eventualities. This might seem impossible for someone not used to having a plan for everything, but this is exactly what converts to Islam say gives them peace. Peace is the very meaning of the Arabic word Islam, and it is what Islam offers you. Islam Islam not only has solutions for our personal lives, but also solves global problems such as saving the environment or fixing wealth inequality. Without knowing these solutions, we are in trouble and cannot be happy. Islam is unique in having solutions to these problems, as it is the most advanced religion, as well as being the only religion that claimed to be international. The founders of other religions, such as Christianity, explicitly said they were tribal, because that is what was needed by the followers of those religions at the time they were taught. Islam does not stop at physical problems, but also solves psychological ones. Today, few people are aware of the findings of the greatest psychologists who tell us that purpose is a basic human need. Islam logically explains our purpose, which has the effect of making us excited every day of our lives. Questions such as the purpose of life depend on knowing more important questions, such as does God exist? These questions have been given little importance in the West because of both materialism and confusion around such topics. However, these questions are essential to how happiness works within the framework of our soul and consciousness, something that I hope to explain in this course. Wow, got through it. So hopefully you found that useful. I haven't seen any comments in the live chat, but always feel free to comment later on. And so what I'm going to do for the rest of the show, for the next 40 minutes, just looking at one of the lights going off, is just go through this summary, because there's a lot more I could say on each of these paragraphs. So I'll just start going through all of it again, but in a bit more detail. So I'll just make things up as I go along. What I mean by make things up as I go along is not literally make things up, but I haven't really scripted the rest of it or planned exactly what I'm going to say, but here we go. So I said, what did I say? The path, the happiness path chosen for this course is based on Islam. Okay, right. So, yeah, so Islam, I said, is unique. And it's unique in so many ways, as I just listed below. It's logical, it's inclusive, in that it doesn't say, like other religions say, our religion is right and other religions are wrong. It says, actually, logically, God didn't go, create everybody and then ignore everybody for centuries and then say one day, this small group of people, they're the children of my children, the only ones that matter, and I'm going to guide them only. That would just be weird. Islam teaches quite the opposite. It says, for every time, for every people, we sent them messengers. So yeah, so that's a little explanation that I think is really important. So Islam is a very inclusive religion. I think the next kind of obvious thing that I didn't go into detail about is that, looking at some cute kittens right now, they're kind of hiding from me, is that, what was I talking about? Yeah, can't remember. Anyway, so yeah, it's logical. It doesn't make you just believe and say, you've got to have faith and stuff like that. It gives you reasons. It gives you reason in all sorts of ways. So some scientific, and I'll give you a few examples of that. So, for example, the Quran talks about the stages of pregnancy, like what happens to the fetus within you as it grows. What are the stages? It accurately describes it, so much so that I think some people just become Muslim just from reading that, people who know more about the subject. And so how could they have known? At the time of the revelation and time and place of the revelation, it was one of probably the most savage places on earth, and as well as Prophet Muhammad himself couldn't read, so somehow he wrote this incredibly Shakespearean style book called the Holy Quran, which is still used nowadays by Arabs for basically defining how Arabic should be written, because it's such a high standard. So yeah, there are endless, you can call them miracles or evidences that this is the word of God. So scientific, logical, and it speaks to the heart as well. So it's not pure just logic. You read it and you go, wow, it's saying something to me that you might. So the point is that you don't have to be a scientist to understand the Quran. The Quran works at different levels, because that would be wrong as well. So it would be wrong to say if there was a bad scientist versus a good uneducated person, the good uneducated person would be guided first. Okay, but as the Quran always encourages, and Islam always encourages us to learn. So, Tariq Safir, have you invited any guests? No. So that's a good question. So I'm experimenting by not inviting guests for these particular shows while I'm in Jordan, because I've got, for a couple of reasons, but the main immediate reason was that I don't have the setup I usually have. So at home, I've got a second screen, and I can see what's happening with the guests, and I can read things, and I could drag and drop and whatever. And at the moment, I've got a really tiny screen, about that big. I'm reading the comments off and my little script as well, the little text that I've written. So no, I'm not going to, and not while I'm in Jordan. I'm going to be in Jordan for a month. So thanks for the question, by the way. And the kind of reason was that I have other people on the show, partly to do a sort of comparison. I will say something, and the guest will say something, and I hope that you can see the value in what I'm saying compared to them. So that's kind of really the reason why I have the guests, but I'm not always that desperate to have guests. Sometimes I think it's a mistake to have guests. I'm kind of always experimenting to see, you know, what works, what doesn't, what helps people learn. So sometimes it helps people learn if there is a Buddhist monk there, because I go, oh, okay, I believe in, listening to Buddhist monks. Oh, it's for me. Okay, you can put it there, Jazakallah. That's really nice. No, just put it down there. Yeah, don't worry about answer cans. Yeah, I know. They won't get too close, Jazakallah. All right, okay. So, yeah. Okay. So, yeah, there are lots of ants and cats around, as my son was saying. And apparently the tea is really hot, so I'll be really careful. Nope, it's too hot. Okay, I'm not very good at drinking hot tea. Oops. And oh yeah, and as I was saying, my setup is very limited. Balancing the what's it called, the mouse on my lap, but hopefully it'll still work. Anyway, so yeah. So what else is there to say? Let me keep going through the text I was reading. Once I've got this lid back on. I don't think it's going to go back on. All right, okay. So what did I say? Misconceptions. So people have a lot of misconceptions about Islam, and often surprised that people listen to the media, but if you think about it, if all you hear about Islam day after day is that Islam is a horrible religion, then eventually you're going to be affected, even if you don't generally listen to what we call the media, the news. We know it's all biased, but we can still be affected by it if that's the only thing we hear. So so it's good to know, and you often won't know that most converts to Islam in the West are women, and because they find it empowering, and that's something really to explain. So there are these people who are very vocal and they get the attention, these kind of extreme feminists, and I call myself a feminist, and I don't call those so-called extreme feminists real feminists. I think they're anti-women, even though they call themselves feminists. So let me explain that a little bit. So Islam says everybody should work according to their strengths. And so if you're a woman, you are completely different to a man. And that shouldn't be some sort of what's the word? Difficult thing to say, you know? We're completely different, but it doesn't mean we're better or worse. I would say we would be lost without each other. So men are good at maybe big picture kind of things. Women are good at the details, and the details are very important. And one of the reasons why there's a conflict in this idea is because of materialism. Materialism is saying the only thing that is of value is the ability to make things, make money, to get more stuff, and all this kind of stuff. And so what women do, they bring value to society. I'm just looking at the cat. They bring value to society, and they bring value to relationships through love and compassion and taking care of kids, but that doesn't make much money. So, some women who are materialistic, they'll go, you know what? Actually, I want a job. I want to make more money because that's what's important, not taking care of the kids. And the result is that people are really miserable and families are breaking down. Anyway, what does Tariq has to say? Developmental biology, the Holy Quran, 23:14. So one of the difficulties I have is the kind of I can't really search that up. So if you want to oh, I know. I think I know what you're talking about. You're talking about. So I can't really search that up and check out what you mean, but I can kind of guess what you might mean. So you might be referring to uh, the development of the fetus, the baby inside the mother's belly or womb. It's a proper word. So maybe that's true. You can tell me, Tariq, if that's true. But yeah, thanks for the reference. Actually, and if you want a free copy of the Holy Quran, it's always online. Just go to alislam.org. So al means is Arabic for so theislam.org /Quran. And you get to see the Quran for free. Lots of different translations. You can search it and all this kind of stuff. So you can check out this reference that Tariq Safir has given, chapter 23, verse 14. So it probably refers to the development of the fetus. Okay, so as I was saying, women love Islam. They are respected, and I would say women are not respected in the West, although on the surface they're respected. So I would not call it respectful if I felt I had to show off my body. Now, again, feminists, the so-called feminists say it's my right to show off my body, but I would feel ashamed if that was like deemed necessary for me to get ahead in my job, for example, as is the case in lots of TV shows and things like that. Okay, I would be like, what? Like, what about my brain? Isn't that important? And that's often the case. And women have to spend way more time getting ready and stuff like that. So a lot of women feel oppressed, but they're not so vocal. A lot of women feel oppressed in the West by being what we call do it all mums often, because of all the breakups in the families. They take care of the families, the kids and everything, and they go to work, and then they're miserable. Okay, they're absolutely miserable. And even if they're still in a relationship, because making money is so important, the children are sent off to these daycare places where I don't think they're going to be taken care of anywhere near as good as the parents, and they feel like rubbish, these children, because their parents have just sent them away, not and value making money over that, over taking care of them, having mum taking care of them properly. And then, of course, when the parents are home, they're knackered and they don't want to see the children anymore. So the children feel even worse after, what I mean? It's just rubbish. It's a really rubbish system, not at all good. And of course, families are going to be miserable like that. And so, of course, children are going to be, I would say, children where I live in London, in England, I'd say adults are undeveloped. Okay, in terms of social skills, they don't know how to communicate love and care. It's all very harsh, and they don't. It's not popular to say, "Oh, it's really good to see you. I'm so happy to see you." It's all kind of sarcastic and things like that in London. And this is not me being rude or hateful towards Western culture. Something I've been brought up in, and I value it in some ways. They get things done properly, I suppose, half the time. It's just that London is my town, my village, as it were. Okay, and I owe it. So I'm going to be talking mainly to London and then the Western world, who can relate to this kind of mentality of the West. And I'm talking to them with love and saying, like, these are the problems you have. These are major problems, and here are the solutions. The solutions are realize men and women are different. We know that. That's why the Olympics have 100 meters men's race and 100 meters women's race. And currently the Olympics are being messed up in the ladies' side because men are pretending to be women, this sort of transgender kind of stuff, where people are confused about what transgender means. It doesn't actually mean you turn into a woman. It just means you claim to be a woman. Oh, tea is great in this weather. Sorry about the heavy slurping. Anyway, I can't drink hot tea easily without the special slurp effect. Okay. So anyway, so that's one thing there. Women love Islam because it just lets women be women. And women really don't want to work. They'd rather be at home. I've talked to women, and apparently some women told me that, there's some survey that says most women don't want to go to work, but you don't really hear that because of these radical feminists. They're not really feminists. They make most women's lives miserable by pushing their certain agenda. Yeah, I'm not against radical feminists as well. Everybody's my brother and sister. Ah, cute kittens coming out. They normally hide when they're small. Okay, so yeah, I could go on about that, but let's move on. Let's keep going through different parts of this text that I've read. Okay, it's proven. Okay, so Islam is a proven, tried and tested way of life that will make you happier. And it's logical that it will. Okay, even if you don't know of these surveys and tests that I'm talking about. I mean, you can Google a lot of these things. So, for example, I talked about the shaking of hands. You can Google how just hugging, generates these feel-good hormones. Just Google it. And so, of course, shaking hands has the same sort of effect, just pressing one body onto another has that effect. Okay, so of course, Islam doesn't mean just randomly, press your nose on top of somebody's forehead and stuff like that. There's very specific ways of doing it. And between who? Like between men and men, not between men and women. Again, that's part of psychology. Yeah, men and women are different. They should interact differently. Having, for example, women like it wearing a headscarf, okay, and they've done tests like this. They not even tests, like literally. There was this great lecture, this very kind of open-minded lecturer who does these lectures on YouTube, and he said, like, he got some girls to come up, and he got some Muslim girls to put these other non-Muslim girls into headscarves, and the non-Muslim girls loved the headscarves. They just felt more empowered because they felt less, because women are very much more self-aware, so they become less self-aware because their hair is not showing. They value their hair way more than men do. Okay, and so they felt more confident and things like that. So you can see experiments like that on YouTube if you want. Okay, and of course, women have to, spend hours compared to men just getting ready. So if they wore headscarves, life would be easy for them, and they just focus on being clever and good at their jobs rather than looking good and stuff. Okay, divine. So what did I mean? I mean, I alluded to lots of small points. I said things like, it's far better to listen to God-made teachings than the guesswork and fancy-sounding words of New Age spiritual teachers. So what do I mean? So guesswork. So a lot of these people who are spouting lots of things like, oh, you should, Eckhart Tolle loves to say this, like, live in the now. Like he's saying stuff that's going to be popular at the moment, but it's going to make your life miserable. If you live in the now, first of all, the reason why it's popular, okay, is because it's preaching to a selfish society. So this living in the now is all about living for yourself and not being concerned about the future or making the world better or being concerned about your mistakes and things like that, because people don't want to face up to that. It's a selfish world that people like Eckhart Tolle are preaching to, and they get popular on that selfishness. So don't listen to this guesswork of, I think that sounds good. It sounds good. Living in the now. Don't worry about the past and the future. Just relax. Eckhart Tolle himself, is suffering from sort of mental health issues, or suffered from mental health issues, which got him into this stage where he kind of reacted to all the problems in his life and he said, I don't care about anything. And he started living in the now. This is not a good approach. Okay, don't listen to these people. They will destroy your lives. This is, not thinking about the future or planning for the future and planning to make your life better and just living in the now is absolutely rubbish and just disastrous advice, which is incredibly popular in the West at the moment. Living in the now. Okay, so it's just guesswork. They don't really know what they're talking about. And what else should I say? It sounds good. Yeah, of course it sounds good, but don't follow it just because it sounds good. Think about it. Compare it to what I'm saying. Okay, does it? So I think I might have fallen for some of these ideas at some point. Oh, living in the now. That sounds great. When I thought about it, it doesn't make sense. Or when I compared it to better teaching, I thought, oh my gosh, this living in the now is so rubbish. Okay, so yeah, compare it. Sometimes something might sound good, but don't stick to it if you kind of find something else better. And hopefully these videos will demonstrate things that are better. What else? Yeah, so Islam is not a teaching that drops its standards to fit in with popular opinion. So you can see, for example, Christianity is adopting homosexuality. You can be homosexual and, be a priest. Whereas in the, the Bible is like clearly said, homosexuality, bad thing. Okay, so now they're like, oh, don't worry about it. Let's interpret it a different way. And Christianity, again, before I say something bad about Christianity, which is necessary, I would say there are many strengths to at least having some faith in God. Actually, knowing God exists radically affects your life. Okay, it's a teaching in the Quran as well. So if you are aware that God exists, you are more I would say there's two two effects that it has immediately on you. First of all, you're conscious of doing the right thing all the time. Atheists love to say that, no, you don't need God to think about doing the right thing. I'm good automatically. But even when I was an atheist for a bit, I was less good. I cared less because logically nothing matters, right? So saying that you can be an atheist and be good at the same time is not really very honest. Okay, and you'll see that in the behavior a lot of the time. You can whatever. And the second effect is that when you believe in God, and God is the creator of all us human beings, then you kind of see the connection between all of us. You realize that we're all brothers and sisters, and that we should be nice to each other. And I would say the third thing is you actually have some solid values. Unfortunately, this is where Christianity starts falling down, because modern Christianity has rejected pretty much the whole of the Bible, which teaches them to, be friendly to your neighbors. So loads of people say they're Christians, but on my street, next to nobody is trying to talk to their neighbors except for me and my family. We go around, giving sweets to all the neighbors, and they reciprocate. They give sweets back. But if it wasn't for that, they wouldn't. And I'm not against my neighbors. I'm always trying to be nice, but I'm just saying that's how it is. I'm always making a point to smile at my neighbors as much as I can without them being scared. In London, it's not the thing to do, but people do appreciate it because they get it. Like, they know that we need to be human towards each other. We can't be robots towards each other. And mental health is going down the toilet because people are not smiling at each other, not recognizing each other, taking note of each other, knowing their neighbors and stuff like that, right? So that's what Islam brings. Islam says you should do that. You must do this. I'll give a quote. It might sound extreme, but it's completely, again, in line with human nature, as I mentioned earlier on. I said that, there's a saying of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. He said that if you're walking together and then you are parted by a tree, the tree gets in the way, and you have to, some distance between you, and then you come around the other side of the tree, say, peace be upon you again. Now, that might sound really weird, but it's talking to the subtleties of human nature, that we need to keep reaffirming our acceptance of other people and things like that, and saying our love for other people. And so when we go to the other end and not even making eye contact, so at first, I think one of the reasons why we don't do it in the West is because we don't know about the subtleties of human nature and what makes us happy. But now we've come to a situation where loneliness is the biggest killer. You would never imagine that loneliness could be a killer, but now it's being proved, right? So now we're maybe possibly realizing the subtlety of human nature and what makes us happy and what we must do to be happy and to be mentally healthy, which is, say peace be upon you. And by the way, peace be upon you, or assalamu alaikum, or ashalom aleichem in Hebrew, the Jewish version, all the Abrahamic faiths, including Christianity, Islam, Judaism, if you didn't know what Abrahamic faiths meant, faith, all coming from this one patriarch, one prophet, Prophet Abraham. We all believe in him, all these different religions. They all have this teaching that you must say, peace be upon you, to anybody who you come across. So yeah, the teachings of all religions are not all that different. There are a lot of similarities, but of course there are corruptions. So that's another thing I explained here. So even though as a Muslim I have to accept the the truth I said of many religions, okay, that doesn't mean I accept them in their entirety because they've been corrupted. Men have just made up stuff and stuck them in their holy books because God is not unaware of how he made the universe, and he wouldn't have said, yeah, it took me a couple of billion years, but in the Bible, I'm just going to stick in that it took, 6 days, and I made the earth first, which is completely wrong. Okay, so yeah, these teachings have been corrupted, and there's so many ways to prove they've been corrupted. So the Bible might say there were like 4,000 men in an army, and then later on in the same Bible, it would say, oh, there are 40,000 men in the army. Like, okay, what are you talking about? Right? We're talking about the same situation, and there's a missing zero. Anyway, yeah, so we believe in all other faiths. We believe that God always guided people. We're not like, as Muslims, we're not like some other faiths which say you must believe in this faith and no religion before it. No other people were taught anything. They're all crazy people, the whole world except for us, sort of thing. That's what maybe Christians and maybe some Jews would say, and some other groups of people. Anyway, I'll put this away so I can do a bit of slurping. 1 minute. Oh, I wonder, I mean, you can give me some feedback, or maybe I'll ask a few people. Yeah, I'm getting a lot less comments compared to last time. One of the reasons why I changed the format, and by the way, the reason I'm scratching a lot, because you do get a lot of mosquitoes here, but I'm wearing shorts. Yeah, so one of the reasons why I changed the format is because I had 3 topics before, and we were kind of whizzing through them, and I found that sometimes people would ask a question, and I'll say, "Oh, sorry, mate, like we've gone past that now," and I'll try to comment a few answers or comment afterwards or something, you know. Yeah, so it was a bit too fast paced. So now I'm like, it's about one topic really. The one topic, just to make it clear, is what direction should you take? Maybe that's not clear, I suppose, in the title. I don't know. What are the key parts of the path of happiness? The key parts of the path of happiness. What should necessarily be there? So you got to have something that's logical. You got to have something that's kind and fair to people, men and women. Something that's proven, not just, based on faith. Something that ideally is divine rather than man-made. Something that's logical, scientific. Something that's easy, ideally, rather than complete, hard. If I want to quit smoking, I shouldn't have to climb Mount Everest. It should be easier than that, right? Okay. And something that's complete. That's pretty important, a psychologist said, a great psychologist, what's his name? Jordan Peterson, very popular. He said that if it was possible to have the answers to all possible situations, I can't remember the words, it would massively reduce your cognitive load, the pressure you have on your mind, and it reduce your anxiety. And so that was just something he noted, and I think he's a big fan of Christianity. And you know, there is good in Christianity. Um, yeah, there is good in Christianity, and if you can take some advice from there and some pointers and solutions to things before they come to you, then your life's going to be a lot better. So I think that's why he was saying that. But Islam is a lot more comprehensive. So there are clearly Islam's understanding of the universe is much better, but it's a lot more comprehensive in just about every respect. So first of all, uh, I was talking to some Christians about our, treatment of slaves. So in the Bible, you're allowed to kill your slaves because, as it says, they are your property. And so it's kind of I would say, a backwards faith in many ways. Um, and it has sort of halfway teachings depending on what perspective you take. So, for example, there's in parts of the Bible it says an eye for an eye. It means like if somebody does something bad for you, you do something bad to them straight away, right? No excuses. And then on the other hand, Jesus said, if somebody slaps you on one side, offer the other cheek, right? But nobody practices either of those. You can't tell me a Christian goes to war and then somebody shoots them on one foot and say, please shoot me on the other foot. That's just not a practical religion, right? But it has its value in certain ways. Okay, so Islam is actually a very forgiving religion. Prophet Muhammad forgave people who were really cruel to him and his family and his friends for so many years. There were people who tried to kill him for so many years, and then when he forgave them, and he didn't have to, like he did things in balance, but when he did forgive them, they were so shocked. They said, only a prophet of God could do what you just did, to forgive us when you finally have come to power after so many years. It was 13 years of persecution when he was in a town called Mecca, and then he left. Then he was persecuted, and people chased him in this other town that he went to, and he had to fight battle after battle just to defend himself, not to attack other people. And then after all of that, when he finally became, powerful, he forgave people, and people were shocked. And people just thought, you know what, he can't be wrong. I mean, first of all, he had no power when he started off, and somehow he became more and more powerful. And all his followers were the weakest people. It was very rare that the rich people would follow him, because it is by nature, rich people find it harder to follow the truth because they're more attached to materialism. So it's actually quite hard to actually be happy and rich. It doesn't mean money itself is bad, but it's actually quite hard to be happy and rich because you get attached to it and you forget God. You forget the bigger picture, and you forget being nice to people. You've got your iPhone, you got your Netflix. Oh, I'm not going to talk to anybody anymore, and I'm going to stay in my home and be rude to people on chats, on YouTube, uh, be rude to my neighbors because I don't think I need them. I got all the money I need, I got all the home entertainment I need, I can buy happiness, is what people think, and they end up absolutely miserable because actually human beings need connection. And that's what I was saying is the purpose of Islam and the purpose of us. I said, just to finish off, where did I say? I said, yes. So Islam is an unusual religion. Instead of being called, Muhammad's religion or Christ's religion, Jesus Christ, or Buddhism, after Buddha, it's got a very practical name because, first of all, it's not a tribal religion, so it doesn't need to be named after one particular person who belonged to one particular area. But it's got a very practical name called Islam, and Islam is as with Arabic, and especially Quranic Arabic, which is really deep. It has a lot of meanings and very practical meanings. It says, if you want inner peace and you want outer peace means connection and peace and being in harmony with the environment and the cats and the human beings and the CO2 and all this kind of stuff, right? If you want that, then you have to let go of your ego. Okay, our ego makes us do really stupid things. So, yeah. So just to finish off, Islam wants to give you inner and outer peace, and you do that when you are one with God and God's creation, and you do that by letting go of your ego. When you let go of your ego, you just listen to the truth rather than saying, I know it already, don't tell me anything, I know too much. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. Please like and subscribe, even if you didn't comment or anything. Really appreciate you, Tariq Safir, my younger brother, for commenting. Yeah, just like, share, subscribe, do whatever you can, do whatever you feel comfortable doing. Good thing there was no accident there. Peace be upon you. Assalamu alaikum. Have a great week. Catch you next week. I don't know. I'm just going to end the stream now. You're in it right now. I'm going to say, are you sure you want to end the stream? I'm not